Hi guys, my name's Pedro Ravas, and I've been at Tubies pretty much now for over 20 years, close to 25 years. I've lived with the peg tube. I'm also the host of the I Alpha project, and here we pretty much look at how we can develop ourselves into better versions of ourselves, finding peace with our everyday life, but not just that, looking for happiness within that and a sense of safety and security just for us to be who we really are and an exploration of who our true selves really is. This brings me to this theme for today's podcast. I want to talk about 3 things to remember for people who are tubie carers or parents and for tubies themselves. 3 important things that I remember made a massive difference in my life. I've worked with a lot of families that have a tubie lifestyle, and I find this is a common denominator in most of my experiences in the cases that I've worked with. So guys, before I touch on number 1, I'm sure most of us went through our own personal experience when we found out that a loved one needed a peg feed, or us ourselves needed to be inserted with a peg feed. So much goes racing through your mind. I remember when I first got mine, it was after surgery, and I hadn't been able to swallow after my brain surgery for quite a while. The nasal gastric tube was causing me to choke and aspirate quite often, so they had to remove that, and the doctor suggested a peg feed. And when he first told me that, it was also only on a temporary basis. But even then, for myself, it was stressful in thinking, like, my birthday was coming up. It was, oh my goodness, well, what's going to happen with food? Will I ever be able to swallow again? Am I ever going to have a social life again? We don't realize the importance around food. And then the interesting thing is, for me personally, when this happened, all of a sudden I had a craving for all different types of food and I couldn't swallow. So in my mind, there was that frustration and that aggravation. And I saw everything as becoming a problem. Like, this was a problem that I needed to solve. And at the time, there weren't many people around that had the tube. So I've had my tube for over close to 25 years, and definitely not in my age group because I was around 25 years old back then. What happened was it brought a lot of stress in, like, I have to figure this out for myself. And this is a problem I needed to find a solution for. First point, guys, is that there are no problems, just projects. This is something that I learned doing Jose Silva's mind control methods. Basically, when we use language, language can be affirmative to our brain, and so our body responds accordingly. When we say we have a problem at work or I have a problem at home, change the word problem to project. The moment you use the word project, it's a completely different feel. So when I had my tube, it wasn't a problem, it was a project. The project is for me to understand how I can relate better to it, how it can relate to me, how it relates to my lifestyle, what my limitations are, but also discovering things that I didn't know existed because of my tube. There's so many different things that I can now do from a health perspective with my tube that I would never have known before. So the attitude that we have to that is the first thing. If we have a negative attitude towards the tube and towards our condition and our lifestyle, it's just going to put a lot more stress on us. But if we look at it as a project, and definitely not one that most of us would have chosen freely, it does take the tension out of it. It does take the stress and the frustration and fear out of it. So the other thing is also to remind ourselves, like, there are always options. Always options. The thing is, we might not know all of them just yet. So because they don't exist in our frame of mind, doesn't mean that they don't exist in reality and that there aren't other people that are doing this. The second thing to remember for tubie carers, as well as for tubies themselves, and I'm not talking about the general public who may or may not be aware of tube feeds and tube awareness. This is more of a personal thing between families, is as much as we want to understand our children who have a peg feed, you never will. And the reality is, people who are peg fed will never understand a parent's reality. It's not possible. We strive to understand, and I see a lot of parents struggle because emotively they just want to understand how their child feels, their child's needs, how they can become better parents and cater to their child. And a lot of times children don't understand what the parent's doing. It can come across as sometimes controlling, and this is I'm speaking for myself from personal experience. But I was lucky; I was a lot older, so the controlling aspect of it, I realized straight away it had come from a place of love. And now that I'm older as well, a fear. So, as parents, you want to do what's best for your child, give them every opportunity as well as every solution, making sure you're doing the best you can. But at the same time, we fight this fear of what's to come for them. What will their lives be like? And we try and understand, but the reality is we never will. From that perspective, we need to put more focus in trying to understand our journey. And that was something I came across from a tubie perspective. I wasn't a father yet before I had my brain surgeries and my tube. And I never really understood what my parents felt. I was always the one in the bed, in the surgery with the tubes and countless surgeries. And I was always the patient. So I was always focused on my journey and getting through that. But I never really came to terms with what they were feeling. And even then, what happened is when I became a dad, all I could do was relate and empathize with how they must have felt. Because I can only imagine how I would feel if I was in that circumstance. So even then, we can think we understand how we would behave in a situation, but until we're in it, we never know. We're reactive human beings. We're emotive. So until we're that part, we can strive to understand. But this is what I'd like to touch on. Robert Greene, in his book, The Laws of Human Nature, he talks about how we are at an emotive state and our natural, innate humanness. And one of those things is we try and understand, but we should be focused on more to empathize. We need to empathize with somebody, or as opposed to understand somebody. So he describes that in a way of almost calming your own brain, stop thinking and using your mind, and start feeling more. And try and connect to that person's energy, the words they use, where they're talking. And then you can almost empathize with how you would feel in their body. So your mind in their feeling body. And that will give you a better idea how they might be feeling. And when you do that, that creates a better cognitive understanding and perception of what they might be going through. And the most important thing is the communication of that, being fully aware that, like, I'm not really trying to understand what you want or what it's like and how you feel, but I want to empathize. I can see, I can feel what's that like for you, but also share your feelings and be open and honest about that. With my children, there's times where I say to them, yeah, I'm struggling to make a decision because I want to do what's best for you, but I need to understand what makes you feel better, what seems better for you, what would be a better option for you. Rather than me deciding on my own, I can tell them how I'm feeling, but what I want to do is I want to get more information from them. The best part about that, it actually empowers us when we're dealing with one another. Uh, I can be honest, like for myself, in my perspective with the tube feed, sometimes it could be quite demanding the way people were on top of me or their energy towards me. And there's a distinct difference between the way they were with me before my peg tube and how they were after, as well as socially. And for me, it was quite confrontational because I knew that it wasn't because of my personality and character that this difference came about. It was because of my tube, something external. So that's an example of what their perception of what I might be going through changed their behavior towards me. It wasn't me or my behavior. It was something, a consequence of our surroundings, if that makes sense. But that can also be alienating as well. So in my mind, this goes where I try to empathize with what they might be feeling, because straight away it creates a connection because, oh, if I was in their shoes, I now understand where they might be coming from because I've empathized. But if I'm judging them based on my mind, trying to understand their behavior towards me, I'm only going to come with logical conclusions. And our brain sometimes tends to put forward more negative emotions as opposed to positive. This goes back to another podcast where I talk about the importance of practicing positive thought, positive speech, and positive emotions. So, but because we're surrounded by negativity most of the time, our brain will go straight to that. So if we are mentally trying to connect and understand with what they are going through or what they are doing or the reasons behind their actions, it's not going to help. It's going to be then your own mind creating solutions that then will bring about feelings. So if you're trying to connect and understand with what they're feeling by using your mind and trying to understand their mind, and with this negativity that we have around us, it's only going to create more restriction into finding that connection that we want, that understanding that we want. So right back to it, guys, we will never understand. Free yourself from that. But we may be able to empathize. We will only understand when we're in that ourselves. And even when we are in ourselves, we're different people, so we will react and feel differently, even though it may be similar. The third and final point, this is really important to remember, guys. You are not alone. It's such an alienating feeling, whether you're the parent, whether you're the parents, or the caregivers, or family members, or the person with the tube. You are not alone. This is your personal journey, but you do not have to go through it alone. There are so many resources. And over the years, I've seen so many people come up, and what a tribe it's made, a family unit. I can honestly say to Tubi family, there's an understanding and empathy between everybody, and we're all amalgamate each other's knowledge, shares, and experiences to just make tube awareness a lot better, but also something of common lifestyle, something that's easily acceptable and comfortable for the caregivers, as well as for the tubies, as well as for families that haven't known or been aware of tubies. People from Wholesome Meals Blends, the Blend Magazine, Tubie Fun EU, the Blending Dietitian. I mean, I've worked with so many wonderful people, mothers and fathers. There is literally a community out there. And what I love about this community is that it's not about just taking knowledge. It's about sharing knowledge. Everyone has accepted a responsibility to be better for everybody else. Everyone's chipping in, trying to find solutions, asking questions, sharing experiences. And there's no one in this tribe that's just take, take, take. This is the best thing about the tubing community that I like, from the manufacturers of our tubes to the doctors, dietitians, nurses, and families out there. There really is. So you are not alone. So remember one thing. When you are working with each other as a parent with your child who has a tube, you are not alone. So instead of doing things for your child, do it with your child. So many parents get carried away for doing things for their kids. They don't realize that in a subconscious way, they're actually taking power from their kids. They are not teaching their children in the journey of accepting their responsibility, because it's going to be their responsibility in the future. This is the hard part about what we have to deal with, is knowing that as parents, we can do what we can now, but that one day that child will grow up and we want them to be independent. But if we are constantly doing things for them and taking care of them, how are they going to learn to take care of themselves? And as a child with the tube, the more that they do and the more they take ownership of, the more empowered they feel, the more confident they feel. I've worked with kids that one child, I won't say his name, he was exceptional. He's one of my favorites. He struggled even psychologically, taking his shirt off because of his tube. But with the right blended meals from Whole Foods and nutrition, and his parents bringing him in on the journey, he's one of the youngest adults I know, and was able to take his shirt off confidently and securely in front of his friends. And he's socializing and dating. So I really do believe when we do things together as opposed for each other, it makes a massive difference when we come to terms with our conditions. And the same thing applies for tubies. And I'll say to all the young guys out there too, your mums and dads work really, really hard. they really do care about you, and all they want is the best for you. So as frustrating as they can be and as demanding as it can be sometimes, they are doing it because they believe it's what's best for you. So a really good way to show appreciation for that and take ownership is pitch in, jump in, help out. Like take ownership of yours, and you'll realize that you're doing things with your family. You will connect to the reasons why they do it with you. It becomes an experience as opposed to a task. I hope that makes sense, guys. So remember, do things together. Of course, look after each other and do things for each other. It's not what I'm saying. But when it comes to the day-to-day gritty stuff of this, living with this lifestyle, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, we want to build the stamina, the endurance, and have as much fun along the way as we possibly can. And the biggest reward we'll get from this is the connections we make with the souls around us. So do things together. I hope this helped, guys. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe. And also send me any messages of any topics you'd like me to cover. Thank you.